Presidents of Heritage Middle School, we would like to welcome you here tonight.
Thank you.
We were wondering how you have been collaborating with Republican representatives on gun control, but seems to be at a standstill due to extreme partisanship.
Thank you. That's a great question. I'm familiar with firearms and believe deeply in people's right to go hunting and to safely use firearms. I also believe that there are firearms that should not be found on the streets of New Jersey, having been a federal prosecutor and working hard to make sure illegal guns get taken off our streets. And part of how we keep our communities safe is to pass universal background checks. It's a common sense piece of gun safety legislation. It was the very first bill that I co-sponsored, H.R. 8, when I entered into the House of Representatives. We have passed that bill. It's almost been a year now out of the House. Almost 90% of people in this country agree with that piece of legislation. That was a bipartisan piece of legislation. Everybody in the delegation, including the Republicans in New Jersey, voted in favor of that piece of legislation, and now we have to get that vote in the Senate and get that passed through the Senate. So we're working hard to draw attention to that. But I'll also tell you that in the appropriations package, we, for the first time in over 2 decades, put money into the study of this epidemic of gun violence. So now the NIH and the CDC, it's so important. In fact, during my campaign, we heard from Dr. Bonney, who's a pediatric doctor, and had seen the effects of gun violence on our children, and that she really felt like she was kind of blindfolded as she was moving forward to try to handle this epidemic, because they were unlike almost any other epidemic or crisis she had studied or she had dealt with. There were no studies on it. There were no best practices. She didn't have anything from the NIH or the CDC because they had been prohibited from studying it. So we've put money into the study of gun violence, and I think that is one thing that we can all be very proud of. We've got more to do. We'll continue to pass legislation, but we really have to have the Senate take up this legislation and get a vote on it and move forward on passing that.